Professor Tony is in Valdevit. Is that correct, Tony?
That's correct, yes.
All right, Professor Tony, you are a professor where?
At the Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken, New Jersey.
In Hoboken, New Jersey. And you've been there on the staff there for how many years?
About 8 years.
And what do you teach?
I teach biomechanics, advanced biomechanics, and I teach a little bit of senior design.
We ain't going to be able to get by this guy, Paul. This guy's the real deal. We heard about your fumbles and talking about this, and you got biomechanics and things. Next thing you know, some robot's going to take in here and remove us from the studio.
I don't think so.
Hey, I can tell you this one, though. You probably read the paper. How about that space probe that they launched from Europe or whatever, woke up the other day and started transmitting back to Earth? Did you see that?
Yeah, well, every now and then, even the blind squirrel finds a nut.
Well, I like this. I want to go to your class now. This is pretty good. Thank you very much. 2 shows nightly. Professor Tony Valdevit, ladies and gentlemen, from the Stevens Institute. Try the veal. So, Professor, I'm watching Dan Marino here recently on a TV show, and he's saying, the cold weather, it might make it easier for the quarterback of the snow because, the other guys aren't going to be able to, the defense can't run up as quick. It might give them a little more time. But then he starts talking about, if there's rain or ice or something, that's a game changer. So you're saying you think we could have a lot of fumbles in this championship game, the Super Bowl, coming up this Sunday. Is that right?
Yeah, it's possible. What happened, when I did what I did in the lab, I was finding it harder to get a real sensation of how hard I was holding the ball. So I tended to squeeze it more and more and more because I couldn't feel how much I was holding it. So wait a minute.
You actually tested this. You went into the lab and held your ball.
Yeah.
And, walk us through this if you could, please, Professor.
Right. So yeah.
What happened? Tell us what happened. What'd you do?
So what I did was I put the ball in a refrigerator.
Yeah.
Right? And I put sensors on my finger, and I tried to squeeze the ball as somebody was trying to push the ball out of my hand.
So someone's trying to push the football out of your hand. You got sensors, and it's measuring the pressure that you're holding onto the football. And?
So what happened was as my hand got colder and the ball got colder, I was actually exerting more force on the ball to squeeze it, to stop the ball from being pulled out.
Okay.
And it was primarily because I couldn't get a good sensation as to how well I was holding onto the ball.
But isn't that kind of natural in the game? Don't you? If somebody's trying to push away, aren't you trying to hold it closer? The difference here is you're saying you couldn't feel the football, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's what it boils down to. Since you can't feel it, you want to make sure you hold on to it, so you tend to squeeze harder to hold on to it.
At all times. And so this could then squib out of the hands because you're squeezing it too tight.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right, so did you do any other experiments there? This was actually in a lab. Did you have a control group somewhere? Did you have,
No, it was just me.
Just you?
Just me.
You didn't have RG2G from Washington?
That'd be great, though.
Have him sitting there doing some things. He's out of work now these days.
Yeah, these guys are looking for something to do, yeah.
Exactly.
No, it was just me. And,
or Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow would have been a great subject for you to use.
Sure. Yeah, what I was trying to do was keep my fingers in the same spot all the time, but my guess is that these guys may move their hand around to be more comfortable as the temperature changes.
So you're saying it's natural to move your hand around as it is?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this then leads to the conclusion where you think we're going to see maybe more fumbles than necessary because what's the scheduled temperature at game time? Anybody know? Does anybody check the weather?
I thought it was in the mid to low 30s.
Yeah, mid to low 30s. And do we think that there's going to be any rain or ice or something at that time?
I thought there was a chance, but I haven't seen the latest forecast.
Now, are you Professor Tony Valdevit? Are you going to go to the game?
No.
You're just going to stay?
I live in Pennsylvania, so it's a haul to get there, and I'll just be happy watching it on the couch at home.
That Pennsylvania, our buddy Dick Sinclair on the staff, there's a polka named after that whole state.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Yes.
So, okay, so Professor, you did this. What prompted you to do this? Were you was there some kind of Professor Barack Obama endowment that you got from, the State of the Union guy to spending more of our money to put this study together? Was it something you wanted to find out yourself?
It was just there was a email floating around, and Dean had asked if there was anything we could do, and I said, no, let's give this a shot.
All right, so Professor Tony Valdevit, he goes in, he does this kind of study. Are you a football fanatic yourself?
Not a fanatic. I like the game.
So who's going to win the game? This is a professor now, everybody. We've got the best here.
You put me on the spot. Right?
Yes, I am. Professor Tony Valdevit is Stevens Institute of Technology. He's done massive tests on this. And you say?
I think Denver.
I think you're right. I always go with the strong defense, but everybody's going Denver over that overwhelming offense. Is there anybody there on the medical staff at Stevens Institute that's checked out Peyton Manning's back muscles to make sure everything's okay?
No, I don't think we don't have any medical staff here.
So, Tony, one thing we might want to do, since the Stevens Institute is located where?
It's in Hoboken.
In Hoboken, New Jersey, and the game played not that far away.
That's where Frank Sinatra came out of, too.
Yeah, how about Frank Sinatra?
Right, we have Frank Sinatra drive across the road.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Yes, and you're storing his head, I think, under cryogenics, aren't you? Or is that Ted Williams? I can't remember which.
That is not Frank Sinatra.
Okay, so anyway, so it's a professor. This is great. So you could take some of your students, and I've seen movies like this where the evil professor gets some of his students together and maybe slick down some of the area right there in front of the Seattle the game entrance way out of the locker room or something and cause some sort of shenanigans. Are you up for something like that?
No, we're trying to keep things honest.
Straight on the
honest and legal.
Honest and legal. We know the professor will never come on the show again. I find this amazing that you did this. How did you, on the finger things, you had there's a measurement devices there, sensor devices?
Yeah, they're very thin. They're as thin as paper, and you can just tape them onto your fingers.
So no glove. You just had them taped onto the finger.
Yeah.
So the cold and everything went right through. But now these guys, no, I guess they don't have gloves on, will they? It's going to be their regular hands going out there freezing to death.
Well, I mean, some guys wear. I mean, I thought Peyton Manning wore a glove in Denver.
I think just when he goes out to dinner.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure. Hey,
not talking isotoners
Paul,
either.
what's your pick for the game? I haven't heard your pick yet.
I think we're going to go with the Peyton Manning. Why not? I'm going to go with the doctor. Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Professor Tony Valdevit, and I'm going to go with Paul, and I'm going to go Denver. I think the point. We don't talk about this, I'm sure, at the Stevens Institute, but do you think they'll cover the point spread, Professor Tony?
I
think it's 2.5.
I think that depends on the weather.
Yeah, see, but I think it's like a kick. I think it's going to be maybe a tight game because of that good defense.
Yeah.
I think that guy, that Richard Simmons or whatever his name, what's his name? Richard Sherman? I think he's going to be shooting his mouth off so much that he may actually freeze. You might check the pressure on his lips as he taunts the people of Denver. Should be a good game. All right. Well, do you have a website or anything, Professor Tony Valdevit, at the Stevens Institute?
They can reach it through the Maine University website, stevens.edu.
Stevens.edu. Thank you, Professor Tony. That's a great piece. That was fabulous here on the show. We got the games covered.